We want to turn now to one of the nastiest and most expensive races for the state Senate anywhere in Florida, the one in District 39, which includes South Dade and all of the Keys.
The district race has a much broader implication as well, as Florida Democrats try to pick up seats and even the balance of power in the state legislature. Democrat Javier Fernandez is with us live. He is an attorney and current state representative, as his opponent, Republican Ana Maria Rodriguez, who declined our invitation to be with us today. Good morning.
Javier, good morning. Glad to see you.
Glenda, good morning. Michael, good morning to you as well. Glad to be with you.
We're glad you are, and we regret that Ana Maria Rodriguez, whom I spoke to on Friday, said she was thinking about it, but she did not agree to appear. Let's get a few things straight, Javier, if we can. In the ads that are being run against you, they say that you are basically a radical, a leftist. You want to defund police. Where are you on the political spectrum? If those are inaccurate accusations, go ahead and correct them.
I think I'm a pretty moderate Democrat by any measure, including if you ask my Republican colleagues in the House, who I had great success working with. On defund the police, it's a joke of an attack, given that the Florida Fraternal Order of Police for Florida endorsed my candidacy. I don't think cops would be endorsing candidates who are calling to defund the police.
You know, it was interesting, just on Michael's point, I was reading a little bit of your background, and one of, there's a list of people you admire, and some of your Republican colleagues are on there, which kind of proves that point. But I wanted to ask you, you know, COVID is sort of taking over every issue for every district right now and for the state as a whole. But what do you see the issues being in District 39, South Dade and the Keys? Sea level rise is going to be on that list, I'm going to guess. But what is the pressing issue right now?
You know, in the short term on COVID, we've got to figure out a way to get people to safely re-enter this economy. One of the things that we're not talking about, we're talking about unemployment reform. But one of the things we absolutely need is a paid benefit for people who do not have paid family leave of any type, so they can identify themselves as being exposed or being infected and step out of the economy and not have to choose between working or keeping a roof over their head or paying for food. An absolutely essential of a reform effort we'll need to mount here with our unemployment system. And longer term, certainly transportation is a huge issue in the district. People in the western portions of the district, the north central west portion of the district, have huge issues in transportation. Southern mobility is also an issue. Climate change, as you mentioned, top of the list. Water quality, Everglades restoration, and one issue that I'm very passionate about and I've heard constantly about across the district is housing affordability. Look forward to working on all those issues when I ascend to the Senate in Tallahassee.
Yeah, another one of the issues that has been front and center in this race has been guns in classrooms. The legislature, after the tragedy at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High, of course, passed a law that would allow, with certain severe restrictions, a teacher or other person to have a gun in a school, in a classroom. Your ads say, my mother was a teacher for many years. I wouldn't want her to have to take a gun to school. Your opponent voted for that bill. Take us through that debate.
Yeah, it's a very important issue to highlight because I think it demonstrates my opponent's record for voting against our community's expressed wishes and interests. You know, I think over 70% of voters in Miami-Dade County are opposed to arming teachers. It was a gratuitous vote she took to support leadership. I think it shows her lack of independence, which we need in a state senate representing this district. And on other issues that are critical to the district, on local control, you know, short-term rentals, she's out of step with the needs of the district and consistently has voted against the express wishes of the voters in SD 39.
Well, SD 39 for a long time has been represented by Annie Terry Flores, a moderate Republican, I guess we could call her, been with us a lot, term limited. So I wonder, we know Annie Terry as, first and foremost, education was sort of her thing. She is very pro-choice in education. I know you have a record of you yourself going to private school, your kids go to private school, and yet you are, I don't want to say anti-choice because that's kind of not what you are, but you are a much bigger proponent of putting money into public schools. Your opponent is very pro-choice. Frame this argument if you would, because right now Florida is a pro-choice education state.
Yeah, look, Glenn, I think it's a great question because, when I vote in the best interest of my district and the constituents I serve. 90% of our kids across Florida go to our public schools. Unfortunately, in Tallahassee, the last 20 years, we have been stripping that system of resources. And frankly, the worst offense, and I respect people's rights to choose to send their kids to parochial school. I do it myself at significant expense and sacrifice. But we have, in terms of the voucher program here in Florida, is a system where we're writing these institutions a blank check with no academic accountability standards whatsoever. The Republican sponsors in the House, when we discussed the bill on the floor, were hostile to any conversation around accountability. And while we require that of our public schools and even our charter schools, in the case of vouchers, we do not. And I simply cannot support a policy that has no accountability standards whatsoever.
Yeah, a corollary to this whole argument, of course, is the most recent voucher system is paying tuition for children to attend religious schools, and they somehow have found a mechanism, the legislature, to make that work. You don't agree with that?
Look, I think it's if you're a conservative, it should raise questions for you in terms of what requirements may come that may run counter to your doctrine in the future. There are things that someone may find offensive that they're required to teach as part of the state's curriculum standards. And so when we blur those lines, other issues are raised. I don't think we've done a good enough job of discussing those issues. And I think it's also important to note one of the parts of the attack levied against me is I'm not supporting the option among the poorest children. Well, what's happening in Florida is that these resources now we've raised the income standards to families earning $96,000 a year. That's not serving the poorest among us. What we're doing is we're creating a program to allow more parents to have a cost that they're currently shouldered by the public. I think that raises important questions of equity that we should spend a lot more time debating in Tallahassee.
Speaking of equity, I'm not sure if you were able to hear the programs before. We had sort of a separate debate on the merits of Amendment 2, raising the minimum wage. Are you for raising the minimum wage and for doing it as Amendment 2 is proposing?
Look, I would prefer for us to do it in the legislature, but it's something that we are absolutely unable to do because Republican leadership will not talk about either increasing the minimum wage or wage supports. Last year, I filed a bill to create a state complement to the federal earned income tax credit. I heard Mr. Gazzatua mention that in his presentation. This is a program that I've advocated for in terms of people claiming the benefit to lift people out of poverty. I thought we could do the same to kind of help workers along in Florida. That bill never got a hearing in any committee at any level. And so if we are unwilling to talk about wage supports, then I think the public has rightly taken this issue in its own hands and has pushed forward a conversation on the need to deal with wage inequality across our society. I'm pro Amendment 2, but I think we could strike a better balance if the legislature actually did its job and took up these issues, which have been kicked down the road for too long.
Javier Fernandez, candidate for State Senate, District 39, South Dade and the Keys. We appreciate your time this morning. And again, Ana Maria Rodriguez declined to be part of this discussion, but thank you very much, Javi.
Good to see you. Thanks so much.